Hello and welcome back to TutorialMeat. Today we're going to tackle a logo that a customer had sent me, and you can see really quickly that it is a very middle of the road to hard concept. And when you look at logos like this, you can't just say I can't do that. You got to start breaking it apart in pieces, and that's what we're going to do right now. So starting with my pen tool, I'm just going to break this guy in the middle in half. I usually like tackling the large elements first. And after you do this a few times, you'll notice that that it's actually not that hard once you start breaking the elements apart and don't think of the whole concept. But I'm using my pen tool. I just drew a line straight down, holding my shift key, and then I can cut this segment off by clicking it again to create a hard point. And I'm not going to get exact. I'm going to get close because, of course, the customer wants something that's going to be better than what you have. So I'm going to make it a little bit better than what was there or close to it. So I have my base element set up here, and if you need to adjust some points here, you can always do that to create more of a free-flowing look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this over, and when I drag it over to the left, you can put it anywhere you want to, but I need to make a copy, so I'm going to hold the Alt key down, or the Option key on a Mac. I'm going to hold the Alt key down, and then I'm going to hold Shift key down so it locks it straight across or in 45-degree increments all the way around. So I want this to go straight across here, and then I'm going to flip it. And I use a lot of shortcuts on my keyboard, and I'll explain as I go along which ones are the ones I use the most. But this is one I use a lot, is Reflect out of the Object Transform menu item, and I'm going to reflect it. And we'll reflect it on the vertical axis. And now I have a copy that's flipped, and so I need to join these two pieces together. I usually like using my Smart Guide for this. It's the only time I use my Smart Guide. They usually get in my way more than they help. But Control U brings up your Smart Guide. You get to Smart Guides by going to View and then Smart Guide, and I have that shortcut. It is Control U. And I'm going to lock this in. You can see when you get close, it automatically kind of snaps to that spot on this one. So I'm going to select both elements, hold my Shift key down, select it, and then add them together out of my Pathfinder palette. So I'm moving kind of quickly on this. As you'll see, you can always replay it or pause it and redo it. I'll try not to leave any steps out while I'm doing this. So once I have this object done, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm going to Command Control X. I'm going to lock this background layer because I don't need it. I don't need to keep selecting my picture. And this is about the only time I use layers. It's usually for background images and things like that. So I'm going to paste this back in the same spot it was. Control F or Command F on a Mac. And so I have my base object done. So after this point, all we're doing is putting stuff behind this or in front of it. I usually try to get my bigger elements out first. So I have this object here, and the object you can see is going to be my shirt color. This is going on charcoal shirts, and it's going to be a 3-color spot job. And I'll explain in a different video what spot colors are. So for those of you who already know this is a more advanced thing we're doing on some of these steps, and so this isn't for a beginner by no means. So what we're doing is I'm going to make this my charcoal shirt. I already have my 3 spot colors plus my charcoal shirt color inside of here, and then I'm going to make a stroke around it, the outside of it, and make it about 10 points. 10, 11 points is fine. So I have this object done. Now I need to stick elements behind this. You can see all the elements behind this. I'm going to hide it. This is where I use my shortcuts. F1 is lock, F2 unlock, F3 hide, F4 unhide, so I can hide stuff quickly and unhide it. Instead of having to come up here and go into object and then lock selection, it just takes time for the menus to pop out. So redo your shortcuts for the things you use the most for what you do, and you'll notice as you go along what you use more of. So I need to draw some elements. I already have some pre-selected elements out of here for my clip art collection. I do have an extensive clip art collection I save from different things. So every time I see something I like that's free, I will use it, or elements of that. And I have a lot of those. So things I've drawn in the past, I put inside my clip art collection so I can actually get to them really quickly. Start building your clip art collection so you can just pull from it. Do not buy clip art. It looks cheesy, and there's not very many clip arts that actually look decent that you can't make yourself. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this halftone pattern. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. I already have some of these halftones already brought out. I'm going to just put this in a different color, and you'll see why in a moment. I'm just going to make it a yellow color. I'm going to turn off Smart Guides because they're already irritating me. So I'm going to start placing these elements around. I'm going to rotate some, and you can put stuff behind things that's going to be hidden, like baseball bats and things like that, which is what I was doing. So I'm putting these all in the same color, and you'll see why in a moment why I'm doing that. So let's go ahead and put some elements out here. Like I said, this isn't going to be exact to what was there. I just have to make it kind of close and make it the same feel happen for that. So I have these halftone patterns already selected, and I'm going to rotate this one, and I'm going to reflect it just like we did a while ago. I have a shortcut for that, so I can reflect it so it kind of comes in a different way. And then I can select all of that same color. You can do it out of the options bar on the top by going to the very right when you have an item or items grouped, and these are grouped. So I'm going to say same fill and stroke. I have a shortcut for this that I use that I'll be using later, so I can actually group these together without having to select each individual one. That's why I do a different color. So this will be red. I'm going to paste it behind all this stuff, or since I'm on the layer, I can paste it to the back or send it to the back. You can right click on it, arrange, send to back, or if you hold your shift and control and use your bracket keys, that brings stuff to the front, to the back, and without the shift, it'll actually put it one object behind, one object in front. So I sent to the back of the layer, and I'm going to hide this guy for a second so you can see that that's what it is right now. And then I have some different kind of elements here that I can actually use for these other background elements here. And this one's already behind here, so I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm going to make it black and just kind of play around with the placements of this stuff. And there's some down here at the bottom. So this is stuff that I already found, either found on the internet or made some of. These are ones I found that are free, and I will use them if I can get them. Not that you can't get a picture of a splatter and make it live trace it, which I'll cover that in a different video. So I have these background elements done, except for this very background, the halftone, which I'll cover next, and this splatter here with the crosshatch in it. So let's do the gradient, the halftone pattern first. So I'm just going to create a box. M goes to the rectangle tool. I'm just going to pick a gradient, and I want it at 90 degrees. And then I'm going to change the black. I don't need it that black, so you'll see in a minute why I don't have it going all the way to black. Just like a gray to white will be fine. And then I'm going to go to Effect, and then I'm going to go to Sketch, and then Halftone Pattern. And you'll see there's my halftone pattern. And I don't go to black for that reason. I don't need it that contrasty. And the size I want a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more contrast. It don't have to be perfect, it has to be really close. You can find a lot of halftone patterns online that people have created, and they're not hard to create. I actually make my halftones with a different plugin than what I'm showing here. I'm showing you for the things that you have. And then I'm going to Object, Expand Appearance. So it makes it into like a raster object. You can see here it's a raster object. So I need to live trace this, and I will do a live trace demo in a different video, but right now I already have one preset called Black and White 2. It just makes it a one color black and then gets rid of the white, and then I can expand it. So it's an editable object. So I'm just going to use my eraser tool. An eraser tool, if you didn't know, it worked really good in Illustrator. They revised that a few years ago, and it actually made it really nice. So this one is some steps I'm going to show you for actually erasing some different objects. Okay, so I'm with my eraser tool selected. I'm going to hold my Alt key down and then click and drag, and whatever's inside this box will get erased, because I don't need that many points on here, and I can actually erase some of these on the outside too. I don't need all this. And then I can rotate this guy around to kind of get this effect and make it bigger here. And then I'm going to erase part of this. I might rotate a little bit so I can get a clean erase off of this. Hold my Alt key down, erase that, rotate it back. I try and cut down my point size as much as I can on here. Let me change this to a different color so I can get it in a moment. Same thing with this one. This is a little bit bigger, so I can actually make this bigger, like so. And I can erase what I'm not going to see. So I'm not going to see a lot of this right here. Now I can just select both objects with this, select same fill and stroke color. I should use my shortcut for that. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to grab everything that's there and paste behind everything, which is Command B. It's paste behind selected objects, and then make this my spot color black. So the background elements, except for this guy, is almost done. So this guy, I'm going to use this, and this will create a lot of points for you on here. And let me go ahead and hide. Well, I'm not going to hide it yet. Let me get set where I want it first, so I can delete a lot of this extra stuff. So I'm going to use my eraser tool. Anytime you want to make your eraser tool bigger or smaller, if you use your bracket keys, just like in Photoshop, it makes it bigger or smaller. So I'm going to erase some of these objects here, get a pretty big brush here, and just erase some of these, because it'll cut down a lot of my anchor points. You see how slow it's already chugging along here. It's just very irritating. So the more anchor points you get, the slower your computer's going to run. And I even running 32 gigs of RAM on my computer, but when you have 16,000 anchor points on one object, it's going to be a little wanky. So I'm deleting quite a few of those. I'm deleting 16,000. There's actually probably 200,000 or 300,000 in this object, so we'll let that delete it. And then I can now I kind of got an idea of where I want this at. Now I can kind of do an inverse selection, which is Control I or Command I on my computer. You can go to Select and Inverse on that. So I'm just going to hide all this stuff right now. So I use F3 on mine, so I can hide it. And I create this cross pattern here. So I'm just going to get my line tool, which is backward slash, and just make this into something I can see here, and raise the stroke up quite a bit, and then kind of get this in the angle I want. Okay, with this done, I can actually create a fill out of an outline. This is something you'll want to use. So it's Object, Path, Outline Stroke. I have a shortcut I made for that because I use that almost every project I do, because when I give final products, I don't keep strokes. I always have complete fills when I give it to a client. That way I make sure that it's clean artwork, and then that way if they have checked or unchecked scale, stroke, and effects out of the preferences menu, they can actually it won't distort their image or distort their artwork. So I'm going to outline stroke, so it makes a solid fill. And what I was talking about, if you do Command or Control K, it brings up your preferences. And most people, if they haven't checked it, by default it comes unchecked. So make sure scale and strokes and effects. So when you make the images bigger and smaller, the strokes are equally as big and small when they go. If you have a 10-point stroke and scale it down, it's still going to stay a 10-point stroke. It won't scale with your artwork. But I'll use a fill just to keep that headache away. I'm going to drag this down to I think I like it. And then once you do one modification to the transform of this, I transformed it, which I moved it down, do a Command or Control D. It just keeps doing that same thing over and over again. So I'm going to do several. I'm going to select all those, copy them, paste in front, and then rotate these. And there's my crosshatch pattern. So, okay, with my crosshatch pattern made, then I'm going to select both objects, and then I'm going to hold my Alt key down and click minus front, because this is a front object. I'm deleting from a back object. There's also a minus back. I'll cover the Pathfinder palette in a different video, so if you don't know that, this is more of advanced stuff, so we'll get to that in a future video if you're a beginner. But I'm going to Alt click to make a compound shape. So I'm going to Alt click to subtract, so I'm going to subtract the front from the back. And it shouldn't take that long. I'm actually deleting some anchor points by doing this inside this back object with all the anchor points that's in there. So we'll give it a second. It shouldn't take very long. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm going to click the expand button here to make it a non-editable object anymore. So it'll just be the same object, the one object behind it. Depending how much RAM you have and how fast your hard drive is and how fast your processor is, this might take a little bit, but I have a pretty fast one, so it doesn't take that long. So you see it's still editable, which I can edit points and stuff. I don't need to edit it, so I'm going to expand it. And there's this object done. So I'll make it a red color. Okay, so I'm going to make this the red color, red spot color. Now I can unhide all my stuff here. Then I'm going to cut it, Command X or Control X, select this object and paste behind it. So there I have this object done. The only thing I have left to do for right now is to get rid of this, to make this this distress pattern back here. So I'll do that right now. So I got a distress pattern here, and I'm only going to show part of it because I don't need the whole thing. I'm just going to go ahead and make it the red, and then I can rotate this guy around because I had that banner right there, so I don't need to go all the way up, all the way down. I have this banner that's going to hide a lot of it, but I do need to cut it to trim it to this object here. So I'm going to group these two items together that I just did. I just rotated one around. I'm going to copy this guy, paste it right in front so there's a copy. See, there's a copy there. Now I don't need my stroke. I just need to intersect it to these elements here. So with this object selected, I'm going to select the distress, and then I'm going to hold my Alt key down, hit the intersect. So I'm intersecting wherever these objects hit at, it's going to stay and get rid of everything else on the outside. And then I'm just going to expand it. So there I have this object done. I'll add the other elements as I go along, but for right now let's just hide all this stuff right here. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hide it, and then I can start working on other stuff. I do my fonts at the very end. I do all my elements first and do my fonts later. And the next thing I do is the baseball bat. So I'm going to do this one since I see more of the handle on here. I got to kind of make it up here on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this baseball bat, just flip it over, and then my baseball bats will be done. You also see that there's an outline here around this, and then I have a shirt color outline that goes around the whole thing, and we're going to cover how to do that also. So with this guy selected, I'm just going to go ahead and draw. You can do this with basic shapes and circles and stuff. I'm just as fast with the pen tool, so I don't need to use those. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to draw this bottom part, come up here to the top part, like so. And then if you draw enough baseball bats, you kind of get their curvature down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and just make a point here, and I'll show you why. And I'm going to make a point here, and then draw this guy down, just like I did the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and inverse that, Shift X, or you can click on this double arrow, which just makes you feel your stroke, so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to kind of come down here, and then close it out. The reason I didn't draw that, because I can actually do curves. Now this is new at CC, it has been for the last few versions, and I'm going to click on an anchor point with my direct selection tool, and then round this corner out, and grab this one and round this corner out. Such an invaluable tool to have now that we didn't have before. Okay, let me go ahead and draw this object here. So I'm going to start at that anchor point and draw around, draw a circle, and stop at that anchor point. Then I'm going to make it really big on the outside just to make sure I have it. Because as you guessed, I'm probably going to intersect these. I'm going to grab this baseball bat. I'm going to do a lot of intersecting on this baseball bat to make sure it's trimmed to the exact specification of this baseball bat. So I'm going to copy it, paste it in with the Command F, paste in front. Then I'm going to select both objects and do an intersect. And you see I have this one object now that's going to be white. And I do not need a stroke around this, because there's a stroke going to be around this whole thing, which I can go ahead and make it the width I need it to. And it's going to go to the outside, so I have my true shape of my bat here, which looks like I need to bring this in a little bit, which I can do that. I'm just going to add an anchor point, which plus key adds anchor points, minus key takes it away. So I'm just going to bring this in a little bit. It's not going to affect this shape. And then also I have this little gradient inside of here. So I'm going to copy it, paste it, and make it a different color so I can see if it's getting smaller. And then we'll go to Effect, Path, and Offset Path. This is a shortcut you want to do because I use Offset Path for everything that I do. Almost every job I do, I have to use it. It brings in all the sides equally. So I'm going to -1 point PT, or you can do PX for pixels or IN for inch. And it's going to come in 1 point. Now you can do it out of that menu. I'll show you how I do it. I just do this shortcut here, Shift Control E, to apply the same thing again. And you can see when I apply it out of the appearance palette, I've done it 3 times. I've offset it 3 times. Some people will go out of the offset path menu, and then they'll actually tell it how many points they want to do, like they'll do 2 or 3 or 4 points out of this, and they just do it once out of this dialog. I just got to doing it this way. It just was fast to me do it that way, and then I can control it a little bit better. So then I need to outline my appearance, because the appearance is still to the outside of this big shape. It's not to the inside yet. I need it to go to the smaller shape, so expand appearance, and then add a gradient. So this gradient will be from black and black to white in the center. White in the center, and then I can just rotate this around. Now you can go up with your up key to make this bigger, or hold your shift key down and go up. It does in increments of 10, so it does it a little bit faster. Or you can use your gradient tool and do it that way also. So however you want to do it, it'll work. Okay, so I have this 2 objects done, and now I need to do this wrap. So this first wrap I'll just go up here with this. This first wrap is different than the other wrap, so I'll do this one first. I'll make it into a different color and stroke it in that color, and then go up. And then get my pen tool, click my pen tool again, now do this one. So this one's going to curve up also. So after I've done that, then I'll select this one and start placing this. I'm holding Alt key as I'm dragging to make copies. And you see your cursor change into a double cursor when I do that. So one more probably, right there. So now I can select all the same stroke color. And I'm going to expand the appearance of it, or outline my stroke, which is Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. I have my shortcut for that. I'm going to group them. Now I can select on my baseball bat, copy it, paste it in front, select my bands, and then Alt click my intersect. You'll do that enough times that'll just become second nature for you. And then I will make that the black. And you see how the black is underneath the white, so I need to cut all them, click on the white bottom of the bat, and then paste behind. So make sure that black goes behind that. Okay, now I get to do the red part of it. So you see I don't care what happens behind this banner right here. Unless you want to spend time to make a perfect baseball bat, you can save it in your clip art and use it for other projects. But for right now, I'm just going to do it for this project. I'm going to get my pen tool, roughly draw around this. I can go ahead and make it the red if I want to. And then select the baseball bat, copy, paste in front, select the object I just created, and then intersect it. I don't have to hold the Alt key down on that, or the Option key, because it's just 2 solid objects. It's 2 field objects I'm creating instead of a complex object. So now I have the red. Now I need to create this loop right here. And it looks like there's just circles is what they are. So I can do that. I'll just create. If you can use basic shapes, the more basic shapes you use, the better. So I'm just going to create 1 circle, put it up here at the top, use my rotate, which is R, and click up here because I want it to rotate around that point. And I'll bring it up this way. And from this point I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then I'm going to copy it, paste behind. Make sure you paste behind because I'm going to cut this off of that other one. Now I'm going to make this other one go up here, and out here, and out here. And the reason I paste behind it is now I'm going to select this guy, select this other guy, and then just cut it, which is subtract minus front, so it cuts the top from the bottom. So now I have the gray pattern done, which that's going to be my shirt color, which is this right here. Now I need to create this highlight. So I'm just going to do this with the pen tool. It's faster than using the basic shape. So I'm just going to create this one. Just click 4 times to create that. And then I'm going to select my red object, copy, paste in front, then select both, held the shift key down, select the other one, and then intersect them. Now this is going to be a halftone. So I'm going to run 35%. Most screen printers don't like any halftones over 35%. Definitely not over 50% because the gaps start closing up when they create their screens. So also I need to create this gray. See, there's a different color on top of this to create that shadow. So I'm going to select this guy right here and copy him, paste in front. Select this guy, copy, paste in front, this highlight. So I have 2 copies. I have a copy of this and a copy of this. I'm going to select select one of these, select the circle shape you made, and then intersect. And now I can make this a black halftone. So I just click the black. It's still in 35% of that spot color. Sorry. Okay, so then all I have to do now is create this gray, and I have a highlight down here for this gray also. So I'm just going to quickly make this. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect by no means. And this will be a halftone of the black, so 35%. .35% of this. Sorry. 35%. Well, if I can select it. Sorry. Okay, I'll just drag it down to 35%, or roughly there. I'm going to cut it, paste behind these guys. I'm going to select it and paste behind. So paste in front, paste behind is under the edit. Paste in place, paste in back, paste in front. So it's paste in front of what you have selected, paste behind what you have selected. Or if you don't have anything selected, it just goes in front of the artboard or behind it, whatever you have on there. So now I can just fill this guy right here with the gray, with the shirt color. And there's my baseball bat. So I'm going to select everything there. That's why I hit everything, so I can grab everything real easy. You can also do it out of your layers palette, which a lot of people work out of their layers palette. I just don't work out my layers palette because it's just quick doing it how I do it. So I'm going to, oh, I have one more thing to do. Before I get anything else done, I need to make another stroke around this guy with this shirt color. And how I do that is, some people will copy, paste behind it, outline the stroke, and then offset it to make it bigger. Just a lot of steps for doing something that's real simple. I use the appearance panel, which we'll be using the appearance panel a lot with the text. So with the stroke selected on here, I'm going to make a new stroke. And I'm going to put this one underneath the fill so it doesn't affect my fill. And I'm going to select my stroke, make sure it's to the outside, which it is. I'll make it just a different color so you can see it. And I'll make it bigger. And you can see how it starts going outside, so I have two strokes basically. And this will be my shirt color, stroke. So I have a fill, a stroke, and a stroke. And you'll see on my appearance palette, stroke, fill, stroke. Okay, with this guy done, I'm going to select it, everything, and group it. And now I can copy it. I'm going to copy it, paste in place, this whole grouped object, and now I can reflect it. Object, transform, reflect. And just say OK. So now I have this other guy. I'm going to use my arrow key to the right, or you can hold the shift key down. It goes in increments of 10 to make sure. So now I have my baseball bats done. So I can grab both those, group them. So I have a groups within groups. And now I can hide these guys. Okay, now I can do the banner. The banner, it looks more complicated than what it is. I'm just still thinking about the overall basic shape of it. So I'm going to grab this. I'm trying to stay inside the black because the black's going to be a stroke around everything. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact on here. I'm just showing you how to take a complex object and then creating something that's not that complex out of there. So to show you, it kind of breaks the workload down a little bit. So when you see something like this, you don't freak out and are like, oh crap, I don't want all that. So you notice I'm going inside. You'll notice I'm going inside of this shield looking thing, and I'll show you why in a minute, because I'm going to cut off the extra that I don't need because I want to be exact to the shield. And I'll show you the way that I do it. Other people do it different ways, but I'm just a different kind of guy. Okay, and actually I'll make this, I get my add tool, and I should have made this started out bigger. So it's actually inside my shield. So what I'm going to do is I have this, let me put a color on it so I can see it in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to unhide everything. And I'm just going to grab this shield, copy it, and then undo what I just did. So I just copied it and just unhid everything again. So I can paste this guy here. So I need to add my stroke to this so it cuts at my stroke, at the outside stroke line. So I'm going to Object, Path, Outline Stroke, and then add that all together. Now I can just delete this whole inside area, and this bottom, and this top. See, then I have this object right here I'm going to cut away from the other parts. So I'm going to group it. You see how I have this inside line? I don't know why it created that. You can try and do an add. So you can add them, which gets rid of them, most of them, and the ones I need. So make sure you add that if you have that problem. So I have these objects here. I'm going to group them. Then I'm going to select this guy here and the banner in the middle. And then I'm going to minus front. You see it just cut. It's going to be exact to my banner. It's going to go right on my shield. It's going to go right to the shield. That's just the way I do it. It's quick, it's easy. I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so then I need to create this inside area here. So I'm just going to use the pen tool to do that. It's pretty easy. So use as fewest point as you can when you're doing the pen tool. So instead of coming over here and clicking this guy, it won't give me a sharp point like I want. So click on the end point to cut off that directional handle, and then come over here, click it, and then click it. And you'll notice I'll go to the outside of my object because I'm going to intersect it just like we've been doing. So I'm going to come way out here to the outside, and that one's done. So let's do this other one. I'll do them all at the same time. So I usually like starting at pointed areas. So where there's a point at, I usually start there because that makes it easier on me later. And I'm just going to quickly draw this. So this guy here goes over here. I'm going to do Shift X to make sure that I can see what I'm doing, because otherwise I can't see. Like I said, don't be exact like this. If you want other graphics you can put in here, there's multiple things you can do besides the way I just did it. So then I'll draw this guy. And you'll get faster using the pen tool the more you use it. So a lot of people are really frustrated the first time they use the pen tool, and I was too. Been using this since version 88, I think, so it's been a while. So I'm going to select these three objects. I'm going to group it, or you can add it together either way. I'm going to Command G to group it. Take this guy, I need him to intersect this, so I'm going to copy, paste in front, select this guy, and then hold the Alt key down and click to intersect, and then expand. So now I have this object, and you can see here it's a gradient from red to a half tone of red to a red. So that's pretty simple. So I'm going to select this, the same half tone that I have. I'll go ahead and do this background first because I already have this gradient up here. So I'll choose this. I'll choose this gradient. I might make the white a little bit whiter here like this. And if you don't need that dark on the ends, you can always do a half tone of that to bring it in a little bit, if you want to. And then I'm going to choose that with the red guy and do the same exact thing here, except this is going to be red. And then I'm going to choose red for this and do it a half tone of red, so around 35%. You can also double click on these guys and it brings up the swatches palette. You can do it that way too, or you can use the gradient tool, however you want to do it. Okay, so there's my banner. It's pretty much done. If you need to fix some points in here, like this guy here, might be a little bit too much. It's not looking kind of normal. You can fix that as you go along. Stretch this guy out a little bit, just like that. So you can fix that how you want to. I'm just kind of roughly doing this so you can get an idea of how you want it. Nobody will ever notice that besides you anyway. Okay, so this guy's done, so I can select this guy. I need to put a stroke around this, a black stroke to the outside of this. So I'm going to stroke it and make it a little bit bigger to the outside. So 2 is probably fine on there. I'll come back and add the black fill later after I unhide everything. It makes it easier. So I'll group this guy. I'll hide him. And what do we have left? That's pretty much it, except for these little splatter patterns on top of the shield. So I can unhide everything like so. And I'll go ahead and add those in there real quick. And I already have some splatters here I can use. So I'll use this guy. I'll cut him, put him right behind, right on top of this shield. Make it black. Black fill, not black stroke. And then I'll add another one over here, like this guy would be fine. I'll cut it, put it on top of this guy, paste in front of that guy, and then put another deal. So it kind of gets some different variations here. I can actually use the same one and just put it over here. There we go, just like that. Alright, I notice here I have a little bit of a problem right here. It looks like this didn't trim out. I didn't trim it or something to this guy. Looks like it didn't trim quite as good. So I'm gonna copy this inside that group. I'm gonna use my direct selection tool, copy it, paste in front, choose this guy and intersect it. There we go, that looks better. Do the same thing here. Use my direct selection tool, not my selection. I'll select my whole group, directly selecting this guy, copy, paste it. I'm pasting it within the group. And use my direct selection tool and select on this guy and do the intersect. So there we go. It looks better now. So I can see those lines. I needed to see them. Okay, so now I can do my text. I'm going to select everything. I'm going to hide it. So we're almost done with this. All we have is text, and it's been about 35 minutes into this. If I wasn't talking, it'd only take me about 20-25 minutes to do this whole thing if I was drawing it out. And if you're getting paid by the job, not the hour, then you can save a lot of time on this, and it saves you a lot of headache. I already have chosen some fonts out of here. I'll go through a different tutorial on how to choose fonts or how to find fonts that you're trying to find. I'm not trying to mimic this, so I'm just trying to get close. So I have Class A here. Let me unlock this layer. Grab these guys and put them on the right layer. Okay, I have Class A, which that's pretty easy. Class A, make sure it's centered so it doesn't adjust it whenever I choose it, make it bigger or smaller. I have 2014, which I'll go ahead and just type that in. It's probably like a collegiate font or something like that. Whoops. Let me delete that. 2014 and make it here. Let me see what size this is. Can we type in 2014 on this? And it's in this last font I used, so I'll just make this a collegiate font and be black, be close enough. Alright, so let me go ahead and get this font done. So I need to mimic this font, and I'm going to do this. I like non-destructive font editing, because if they come back next year and say, hey, I need 2016 or need 2017 or 2018, that same design, you can go back and change it with the same look to it, and I'll use graphic styles for that. So I'm going to use the appearance panel, and you're going to add a new fill, a new stroke, but don't do it yet, because if you add a new fill to it, you can make that into a spot color, but that CMYK is still behind that. So what you need to do is say, I don't want a stroke on it right now. It's just, it looks like there's nothing there, just empty text. There's no fill, no stroke. So now when I do this fill and make it the red, now it'll be 100% spot color. But the fill needs to always be on top of the stroke when you're doing text like this, and you'll see why as we go along. So just drag the fill, put it on top of the stroke, choose a stroke. I'm going to choose white, make it the size I want, then make a new stroke and make this the black, and then make it bigger, equal as big, and then I'm going to add a new stroke and then add the shirt color and make it bigger. So I have three things here going on. And the reason I do that is because, like right now, I can change this to 2016 and it still has that same look to it. Or I can space it apart, or whatever I need to do. I need to center this, is what I need to do. So I can space it apart. So if you hold the Alt key down or Option key on a Mac and use your arrow keys, it adds the tracking for the whole letters that you're doing. And also, a pet peeve of mine is to make sure that this is set to optical in your character palette. If your character palette doesn't look like this, it looks more like this. Double click on the word character and it shows your other options. I always like all my options to be shown. I'm just tedious about that. Make sure, and by default it's going to be set to auto. Make sure you change it to optical, because auto doesn't equally kern the letters. And once you start looking at kern letters on even professional advertising, you'll be really mad to notice that people don't kern their letters correctly. And that way, if you need to edit it further, like say it looked like this one's out a little bit, just hold your Alt key down in between two letters when you have your type tool cursor in there. Hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, and use your left or right arrow keys, and it changes your kerning in between those letters. So make sure you do that. Make sure your letters are kerned correctly. If you're going to be doing this, at least do it right. So now this graphic style is on this one. I need to go to a graphic style palette, and say new, and it applies to this graphic style. So all I gotta do is come up here, click on this guy, say I don't want a fill or a stroke, and then click on this graphic style. Automatically applies to it, so it's already done. Same thing's gonna be done in the inside one here too. So this Crichton this Crichton New England here is going to be, I want to use my pen tool and then just kind of roughly draw this shape here. I don't need a fill or a stroke right now. I'll just apply a stroke to it so I can see it. So that's where that's going to sit at, and I already have it drawn out here close to what I have. I think it's brush script or something. So I'm going to copy it, come over here to my line that I drew, and then go to type tool, and then hold it down, hold your mouse button down on it, goes to type on path, which my shortcut Shift T on that. So I'm click on the line I want to do, and then paste, and then get your selection tool to get out of that. From here I can actually make it bigger or smaller. So if you hold your Control Shift and use your greater than, less than, or period and comma, it makes it bigger or smaller. It'd be Control Shift on a, or Command Shift on a Mac. So I can make this where I kind of close to where I want to. Again, I do not want a fill on there, so I'm going to add my own, which will be a spot color fill. So this will be a red spot color and a black stroke. But on this stroke, I don't want it to be sharp on here. I want it to be rounded. So you see when we come in here, right now it has a sharp point on there. I want to choose my corner as a round joint, so when I make it bigger, it won't get wanky on me, because a lot of times those sharp corners will get wanky on you. So I'm going to, so this isn't going to say Crichton on it when I get done with it. If I'm using it for something different, I'm going to change the name on it to something different on here. I'll go ahead and do this one up here also. So I'm going to go ahead and save this graphic style, because I'll need it for the basis of this one. And I'm going to go ahead and draw my line here. So it's called my baseline. Anytime that the font sends on a line, that's your baseline. Even if you type normally, it's considered a baseline. So if I get my type tool out and start typing whatever, see there's a line there. That line is called my baseline. You're making a baseline. Basically, it's all you're doing. So when you type on path, all you're doing is replacing the baseline with the one that you created. So I'm going to select this guy and come over here with my type on path, click it. I can left justify it on this one because it's just going to be across the top, and then I can apply that pattern. But I need to make a shadow on this also. You see there's a shadow there, so I'm going to go ahead and bump this up a little bit, bump this up, and then also make a new stroke. But this stroke I want to offset it a little bit, so I'm going to transform it. So with this stroke layer, this stroke item selected, you'll see it highlighted in blue. I'm going to go to effects, so add a new effect to this stroke only. So I'm going to go to transform and distort and go to transform. This is where you can make multiple copies of things and stuff like that. I use this quite a bit. Make sure your preview button's on and just play around with this until you get something that you like. So I need to come to the left a little bit and then go down just a little bit. So let's go over a little bit more, like so. Whoops, not that much. There we go. So I have this kind of shadow effect going on here. So that way, I love this, how you can do the appearance panel for this stuff, because that way if you misspell junior, all you do is come in here and replace the letter, and it keeps it in the same font style. You can save your font styles, graphic styles, for other things also. You can save it out of this option menu, out of the graphic styles. You can save your graphic library so you can use it for other objects if you want to. But I need this guy on top of this, so I'm going to select Class A, Object Arrange, Bring to Front. So I want it on top of this. Or if you want to make it smaller, just so it won't be a problem, you can make it a little bit smaller and move it up. So however you want to do it. Okay, so now we're going to do State Baseball, which I'm going to do as TutorialMeat Baseball, because that's actually funner for me. So I'm going to make my baseline. I usually make it bigger on the outside. Don't go right to the font. Always go bigger. I don't need any stroke or feel right now. So I'm just doing 1, 2, 3, 4 anchor points to create this. And then I'll make it a different color so I can see it. Then I'll select on this guy, TutorialMeat Baseball, use my Shift T for type on path, and I'm going to paste it. Okay, let me change this to a color so you can see it here at least. Okay, so now you'll see this little plus sign right here. It says there's too much information for this baseline you created. What are you doing to me, you idiot? So what we're going to do is first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that it's skewed, because see how it follows the path? I don't want it to follow the path, I want it to skew the path. So I'm going to type on path and skew, so it makes it skewed in like I need to. So now I can do the rest out of my character palette, so I can make my characters a little bit skinnier, and I can make them a little bit taller if I need to. Like I said, I don't have to follow this exact design that you have here, but let's see what it looks like when I apply the graphic styles to it. So I'm going to click it and apply it to this one, and see how you have these sharp points. The font that this is, it makes really sharp points because it's coming off this M and the top of these where there's not a clean font. So what we need to do is we need to go back into my appearance panel, go to the stroke palette, choose round corners on all the strokes. So you find all the stroke and choose a round corner on it like so. So let's see what else we got. One other one here, it looks like, that we didn't do. That one right there. So you see now you got rounded corners, but you don't have the points, or you have to choose a different font if that's the case. So I need to make this a little bit smaller on here. So let's see, I'm gonna hold my Shift key down and click on this guy so it makes it by 10s, and then I can click on it and then make it a little bit bigger. And it looks like it needs to start over a little bit further, so I can grab anytime I have my direct selection tool, I can click on these start point lines, or midpoint or end point. So there's a midpoint, or I can do it with the end point. So I can bring this in, so I don't want to go past that point. It will cut off whatever goes past that point. So there's those fonts. I'm done with that. So let's reveal everything and see what it looks like with the fonts on there. The only thing I need to add for sure is this behind here. So I'm going to clear it just to object. It can be pretty big. I don't need any fill and strokes, so I'm going to add my own, which is black, and I'm going to paste it. I'm just not going to have anything selected, and click Command or Control B to paste behind. It'll paste on the back of the artboard. Same thing with this side. So I'm going to click on it and then cut it, paste behind everything. Only thing I need to do is delete a little bit more out of here, which actually cut my point count down. And then let's see what it looks like on a on the shirt background. Okay, so let's zoom out. Let's hide this layer and see what it looks like. Okay, there's my object, and I'm going to just create a box, send it to the back, and make it my shirt color. So there you have it, a complicated design that is going to be 3-spot color once you get rid of the shirt color, or make it a 0 of one of the other spot colors, so it's a 3-color spot design. So it looks like my tutorial meat here is not exactly kosher with my banner, so I need to adjust a little bit of that to make it so. So I'm just going to grab these anchor points and move them around to where I'm happy with. So that's all you got to do, and then you can make this a little bit wider probably. Whoops, I got to select the font and make it a little bit wider, 72 maybe. Okay, and there you go.